There's this idea made famous by Ira Glass. People call it the gap. To paraphrase, nobody tells this to beginners, but maybe they should. When you take your first steps as a professional creator, it's really, really hard because there's a gap between what you can imagine creating and what you're actually able to create. Your taste is ahead of your skills. And as Ira Glass says, quote, "A lot of people never get past this phase. They quit. It's only by going through a volume of work that you will close that gap and your work will be as good as your ambitions." It's gonna take a while. It's normal to take a while. You've just gotta fight your way through. So you think, if I can power through this step, just get to the next level, the next milestone, the next result I so desperately crave, well then this stuff will come easier. The thing is, after all that working and agonizing and debating and celebrating, after this intense period of starting your creative career, eventually you get there, and that's when you realize, wait a second, I'm only here? Oh man. Welcome to the final episode in this limited series going inside the making of my podcast, How Stories Happen. We're making the case for why the mess of the creative process really matters. But what more creators need to realize is once you get through that first gap, there's always another gap. Then another, then another, then another. Your ambitions grow, your tastes change, the world around you changes. If you're doing this work right, your imagination is always way ahead of your own abilities. So you're always kind of in a gap. So that means what we need to ask is, what if this is it? The way you feel now about your process is just how you're always gonna feel, no matter how experienced you get, no matter how good you think you are or others tell you you are. We're always just gonna exist in that gap. That's not a problem, that's just the process, and we have to embrace that. Think of it this way, to be creative is always to do something new, different, or unproven. So it always means that you're doing something that you haven't done before. That is not a safe, comfortable place to be in. So it's not that Ira Glass was wrong. Beginners do experience the gap. But as creative people, we're always kind of acting like beginners. So our goal is not to learn to get beyond the gap. The goal is to learn to exist in, to thrive in the gap. So I'll ask again, what if this is it? What if there's no getting beyond this feeling that you feel or I feel? How do we wrap our arms around that reality? And more importantly, keep going given that truth. And if you're wondering, yes, this is the final episode of this making of series where I'm supposed to celebrate the fact that I'm launching How Stories Happen as a new show. And all that stuff you just heard is how I'm opening this episode. So I will take a moment to celebrate, but I can't lie to you and I can't lie to myself. I am already in the next gap. First, I developed the premise. What's the assertion I'm making? What's the big idea this show is trying to own? This idea for the show kept chasing me around my life, and finally, I turned to face it. Then, I developed the idea publicly, like a comedian testing new material, using my own content to sharpen my thinking. And then I turned what I learned into an empathy statement, a written version of the premise. Next, once I had that premise, I developed the episode format, the recurring rundown, also known as a run of show, so I could have a plan to honor the golden rule of storytelling every episode. Get them to the end. Finally, I had to pilot the show. It was time to step into the supersuit and run and jump and fly and do awesome air kicks. If you missed any of that, go back and watch episodes 1, 2, and 3 of this series. So now I have all these things ready to launch, and now it's time to craft really the crown jewel of launching this show, the trailer. Okay, so yes, it is time to try and actually make this thing real, and it's taken a long time to get here. I'm very excited. I'm also a little stressed out, and little is not the right word there. The goal that I have right now is to get the trailer for the show out about 3 to 4 weeks before episode 1 launches, because I actually think promoting a show well has 3 stages to the marketing, and everybody over indexes on 1. People want the middle stage to be their savior, the launch. But there's a way to raise anticipation and then also extend the value as you talk about and use the material from a given episode or around the launch of something. This applies to whether you're launching a show or a book or really anything. There's raise anticipation, launch, and then extend the value. And we're very excited about the launch, and I don't want to overinvest in that. So this trailer is going to help me raise anticipation because it's going to launch 3 to 4 weeks before episode 1. And that's even cutting it close to me. So the ideal process for crafting the trailer is really straightforward. I have all this language about my premise. I'm gonna pull that in to the script for the trailer, and then I'm gonna leave placeholders to transition between those points using quotes from the miniseries I use to test whether or not I wanna do this show, and the actual pilot episode I did with Andrew Davis. Then I'm gonna go find all the right bites, all the right clips, I'm gonna drop them into the script, I'm gonna score it with music, do some last minute editing and enhancing and all that good stuff, and ship. That's the ideal process. And that is not how the trailer actually went down. You see this? This is the script for the trailer. You know, trailers are meant to be like nice and tight and short and inspiring and get you excited. Yeah, let's just go down. Here's all the writing I've done for a trailer, which can't actually be the final trailer. Still going, still going. Stress rising. This can't be it. I gotta find a way to trim it. And oh, by the way, if I can ever actually reach the bottom, then here's all these clips that I'm gonna pull in. So it's not just my voice, but it's others' voices, all these time-stamped clips. What am I gonna do? Everybody has a plan creatively until they start to make the actual thing. And so what happened with me was actually what follows here. I felt so excited about the initial explanation of the show that I had recorded 8 minutes of audio weeks before I sat down to actually do the trailer. So now past Jay is complicating current Jay's process. And then I decided, screw it, I'm just going to toss that away and restart from scratch today. Okay, then across 3 to 4 days while making coffee, while walking the dog, while washing dishes, I would listen back to the old episodes in my old show and mark the timestamps where somebody said something that could be used in the new trailer. This was extra annoying while washing the dishes. So it's super early and I'm walking the dog. Proof, I got receipts. Not lying to you, I would never lie to you. I've been like agonizing over the trailer for this thing. And I have like 3 or 4 different drafts in my Google Docs right now. And I feel like the most important thing that you can do as a creative person these days is just not consume media for a moment and let your subconscious like work on the creative problem at hand. Because I have like all the pieces necessary for this trailer. I have an empathy statement, the statement that answers the question, why is this for me? I have that written out, it's in the show Bible. I have like clips from the 6 episodes in Unthinkable, my old show that I use to pilot how stories happen. So I have like actual tape that I can pull into the trailer if I want to. And then I have like all these little quotes and sound bites and moments from my life or that I've discovered that I've sort of like saved somewhere as a potential like a bit of material for the trailer too. So I have all the pieces, but it wasn't coming together. I was like overwriting it or like taking 2 different angles and it didn't make sense and, you know, mixing metaphors and all these things. Then like literally walking around today, I just text myself 4 times and those are the beats of the trailer. And it's basically done. Now I just have to go and produce the thing. We overcomplicate this stuff. All right, so I think I'm pulling out of the nightmare that is trying to pull this trailer together. I basically wrote now a tight script of voiceover, which represents the bones of the trailer. Now, obviously, it's not just going to be voiceover. It's going to be clips from the miniseries that I used to test the concept of the show in my old show. So I have 6 episodes with sound bites from other exceptional storytellers. So it's not just my voice in the trailer. The trailer, however, has to explain why this show needs to exist, what it's going to do for you, the listener. It has to raise the stakes and make it feel more compelling than other alternatives you might turn to. And I don't know. I'm just going to, you know what I'm going to do here? I'm going to use the magic of editing this behind the scenes series for you to drop in what the actual final trailer's like first moments sound like. So here we go. This is what it's going to be when it starts eventually. Here it is. Check. Voiceover, How Stories Happen trailer. What does it take to resonate, to write and speak and create with greater impact? These are not ideas we explore deeply enough in the business world today. I mean, spend any time on the internet and you get so much advice from people in business about competing on the volume of your content, not the impact of your ideas. Mostly, when you look to build a brand or grow an audience for yourself, you're met by all kinds of advice that, if you're anything like me, just isn't cutting it. The hacks, the cheats, the shortcuts, the algorithm gaming, the lazy uses of AI. Okay, so that's like I'm setting it up immediately and gripping you immediately and intriguing you. But then I have to hit other points along the way with the voiceover script that I wrote and supplement the voiceover with clips from the old series. So the points I need to make in just straight up voiceover might be like, we have a huge need, like in our work, we have an approach to meeting that need or trying to achieve that goal. And the way we communicate, we want to communicate in higher impact ways, more memorable, more effective ways. But the way we're told to grow an audience or grow a brand or grow a business is kind of obsessing over the wrong thing. And I want to speak to that in my voiceover. Then I have to introduce who I am, why I'm qualified, why I arrived at this insight too. Who will I feature? What journey are we going on in the show? So really the beats I have to hit resemble the three components of any show that you're actively developing in the messy making process and in the subsequent focused mess that you're going through to develop anything. Those three pieces are the show's premise, the show's format, and the show's talent. I have to articulate and make you care about all three of those things in the trailer. But I've made this easier on myself. See, the voiceover is kind of like when you put a puzzle together, finding the corner pieces and then the outlines. That's the proven language from actually earlier episodes of this behind the scenes series. The language that I have tested and written about and spoken about a lot in my content and in private documentation to describe the show's premise and pitch essentially an effective vision for what storytelling or our understanding of it needs to become, the difference between story 1.0, learning story, and story 2.0, being storytellers, and all the various ways I explain that transformation using the documentation I have from my premise development phase. That's like putting the outline of the puzzle together. But now to fill out the whole picture, I can go back to the pilot episodes. Remember, I did a series of episodes to test this concept in my old show and pull forward groupings of clips to illuminate each point of my voiceover, basically bringing momentum, dynamism, energy, and life to this trailer that otherwise could just be me talking at you. And the way I'm going to come at this edit today is what I'm hunting for is, now that I have the trailer script, my voiceover script using proven language I've built previously, I have the outline of the puzzle. I need these little mini groupings of quotes of 3 to 4 voices at a time from the old episodes to highlight and evoke each point of my voiceover. So it's a little bit of voiceover, a montage of quotes, a little more voiceover, a montage of quotes. And that little montage, each one, can start with a really powerful quote from one speaker, have 2 or 3 relevant things that evoke that quote from other speakers, and then revisit the first speaker. So I have this nice little mini structure that I can experiment and play with in hunting for and arranging all these quotes. All right, so we're going to use more editing magic. Here is the eventual version that I came up with of one of those moments, a little bit of voiceover and a montage of quotes. Here's what it might sound like. It has never been easier to create mediocrity at scale. But some of us refuse.
Well, I sort of feel like you've got to have signature stories and signature bits to even be an interesting person.
It's a story that has become sort of like mythology in my own mind.
Maybe I just crossed a line. Maybe I'm going to get fired. I don't know. It was stressful.
And somebody says, so tell me about the moment you decided to leave Google. And I go, all right, here we go again.
The nice thing about having a back pocket story like this is
a moment of connection with the audience. In a way, I want them to feel seen.
You can control your standards. You can control what you aim to do. And in doing that, you can create better results.
It doesn't matter if you're in a conference room or you're waiting in line at the DMV or you're at Applebee's or you're on Hinge or everything that you want in life will have a better chance of being accrued by you if you can actually communicate with powerful and interesting stories.
I'm Jay Acunzo. I'm an author, speaker, a show host, and a consultant to experts and entrepreneurs, helping them stand out through substance and stories, not hollow stunts. Over 2 decades of creating stuff online across every conceivable medium or type of project, my belief in a single idea has only grown stronger. We should prioritize resonance over reach. This is about making things that matter to our careers, companies, and communities. And it turns out when you matter more, you need to hustle for attention less. Sounded great, right? Yeah? Yes? Please say yes. because we're back on the timeline where I don't have that edit quite yet, and I'm staring at this mountain of waveforms in front of me on the big screen here. And I know I need to arrange these quotes according to the different things I need to touch on in my voiceover script. I'm basically using the structure of an empathy statement, the premise pitch that I shared with you in previous episodes of this show. How do you articulate an idea to resonate with others? Use an empathy statement. You have to align with people. Here's your goal. Here's your current approach to achieving it. You have to agitate their pain and problem. There's some tension, there's some problems, there's some stakes, and now we need some kind of assertion. That's the third part. Assert. What is the premise? What are you doing in the show, but also everywhere if you're me? How do I see storytelling? What should be despite what is now? And so here's the assertion that I'm making everywhere. And then invite, that's the fourth piece. I'll invite you to consider new ways of adopting these skills and using them. Don't just learn story, be a storyteller, but I'm also going to invite you to the show because that's the purpose of the trailer. So I know I need like clip montages that connect to all four of those parts. So I have the script in a nice, neat arrangement. I have all these quotes in a messy arrangement, and now I need to put them into their places. So I'm kind of like finishing off the center of the puzzle. Okay, so now here's the thing that I want to be extra careful to explain. I've made it sound like I had this plan all along, right? And I have made shows before, but it always feels like a mess. The purpose of the series is to put some of that mess on display. The best stuff that you find is in the messy making, no matter how pre-planned you are. So I have this structure in the script. I have these montages with some vague purpose in my mind. Now I'm going to go find those clips and make those montages along the way. But like I found this quote here from one of those episodes spoken by the awesome speaker and author and podcaster, Jenny Blake. And just hearing this quote, I was like, oh, I didn't have this planned or scripted, but this could be a nice button at the end of my trailer to visit as like music fades out. We get a pause and then we hear this clip because it really conveys a huge difference between how these exceptional communicators usually show up elsewhere, especially on other podcasts, and how they'll feel and how they'll sound and how they'll show up if you listen to my podcast. So I'm going to drop this clip at the very end of the trailer. So let's drop it in here. You can hear what I found that sort of came up with a new idea in the messy making. I didn't have this planned out, but it's a perfect button for the very end. Here's the clip. Because that is how stories happen.
Shoot. As soon as I said yes to this, I thought, why did I say yes to workshop a story with the master of storytelling? I'm being a total wuss. Okay. Don't judge me, listeners. Okay.
So it's just this like delightful final moment to sort of play it out and get you excited and feeling something to go and subscribe to the whole show or follow the show, because that's the purpose of the trailer. So I could not have planned for that. It's only by going through the mess of making that you find some of the most memorable things that make what you made matter. That's the thing about making things that matter. It's always a mess because you're always in the gap. That's what this stuff is. So the way you feel about your experience, about your process, about your projects, it's not a problem. It's not a referendum on you and you being less than, you being unworthy, you needing more experience. No matter how experienced you get, it's all messy. So the best we can hope for is that we learn to direct the mess, to move through it, each gap, one after the other, with more grace, with more confidence, with more joy. Okay, the trailer edit is done. The months of stress and mess are behind me. You've been privy to some of it and seen a lot of my quirks come out as a result. And I'm literally just staring at the draft of the trailer on my screen here because all I have to do is press a single button to schedule it. And away we go. The ship goes out to sea. The show starts dropping into people's podcast players, and there's no turning back now. So I'm celebrating here. This is it's coffee because I'm so tired. It's definitely coffee. That's the thing about pursuing a life of creative work. We constantly imagine things that are far ahead of what our skills allow us to create. So that creates this gap. And the thing nobody talks about is that's something we face constantly. It's not just a matter of starting your career and facing it, because once you get through that initial gap, you face another, then another, then another. The world changes, your tastes change, your ambitions grow. To be creative is really to learn to exist in the gap. This will never feel clean or safe or predictable. If it was, that's a sign we're not being creative, which is the thing that we're supposedly most driven to do. Don't try to skip the mess. You wouldn't want to do that. You can't, so it doesn't really matter, but you wouldn't want to, because it's in the mess that you find the very best. Little turns of phrases, big new ways of explaining something, your own quirks that you need to let out from where they're hiding. You want to make stuff that matters. You have to recognize that more than ever before, you matter in the work. And it's in the mess that you find yourself. Listen to How Stories Happen wherever you get your podcasts and hear experts, entrepreneurs, creators, and communicators dissect their signature stories piece by piece. Or subscribe to my free newsletter to become a stronger storyteller at jayakunzo.com. Thanks for watching. Keep making a mess.